I need to step out on my own. And so, yeah, I've been running my company. I absolutely love it. Like I never thought I would be in construction, never thought I would even be an entrepreneur, to be honest, but I love it so much. And apparently I'm good at it. Because I've seen things done differently. So I know how I want to run mine. Yeah, one of my employees, he's like, "You're the best boss I never had. You actually care about us in the field." He's like, "I've worked in this industry 15 plus years and no one ever cared about the guys in the field. You do. Like I send them birthday cards, send them cards for their anniversary. They really appreciate that. They love my style." And I'm like, "Hey guys, I make mistakes. Like if something happens and you think I could do it better or you have feedback for me or want to change something, like please come to me. I'm always open. Like I'm just doing this and going along, figuring it out, but that's the beauty of it. I can change it tomorrow if I want. And I don't micromanage them. I let them do their thing because they know way more about this than I do. But like I'm here when they need me. I'm here."
Welcome back, you guys, to another episode of the Beyond the Scale podcast. I am your host, Mary Katherine, and today we have a very special guest. We have Chelsea Husum, who I actually met through the Unstoppable Mastermind that I am a part of with some just outstanding ladies. And Chelsea is a multi-passionate entrepreneur. She is an author, a speaker, a soon-to-be podcast host, as well as a busy mom of 2 young sons and a proud wife. Chelsea's all about dishing out the real talk on life's curveballs. From trauma to pain, she's been there, done that, and she still slays. As a trailblazer in a male-dominated construction industry, Chelsea's story resonates with those facing challenges in various fields, and she can speak extensively to the grit it requires to create a successful startup company, which I'm so excited to dive into today. She knows that sharing our triumphs over life's trials can extend a lifeline to others enduring similar struggles, reminding them that they're not alone and that resilience can lead to a brighter future. She's not just a survivor, she's a force to be reckoned with. So welcome, Chelsea, to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I have loved getting to know you in the mastermind, and I'm so excited to be here today. Thank you so much.
Yes, likewise. And I'm so excited as well. I love learning about other female entrepreneurs who are just absolutely killing it, building their own empires, and they're not letting anyone else dictate what they're doing. Like they are leading the way. And when I look at your social media and after, we've connected offline, like I love hearing your stories about how you're doing that. And so you are in a very much male dominated industry. I mean, when you think construction, you just think hard hats, dirt, big boots. You don't think feminine. And you are in it and you seem to love it. And so I want you to first start with how you even got into that.
Sure. So I've kind of realized I'm the queen of reinvention. So I went to college. I have a Spanish degree and a broadcast journalism degree. So it's kind of random. Thought I wanted to be the next Barbara Walters till I was like, oh, I'd make 20 grand and work nights and weekends. That is not what I want to do. So then the bills started, my student loans started coming. So I'm like, oh my God, I have to get a job. So I got a job as a receptionist at a trade show and experiential marketing company. And I worked my way up through that company for 6 years. And then I was like, I'm not doing anything worthwhile with my life. Like I'm not making a difference. So I quit, went and got my master's in education, and I became a high school Spanish teacher for 10 years. So I did that. I really did love it until the last year. One day a kid called me an effing waste of space. And I was like, oh, tell me how you really feel. Like, what? And I was just like, it was in September. And I was like, if I don't love this anymore, I need to move on. Yeah. So I was desperate to leave teaching, but I applied for all these jobs. No one called me. No one called me. No one called me. I was like, did a teaching pigeonhole me? Like I would hire a teacher in a second.
Yeah.
And because they're so, hardworking and they juggle so many things. And so I was like, okay. And I finally took a job as an office manager for a different construction company that worked in commercial construction. So that's how I got into commercial construction, had zero training, literally got thrown in. I cried all the time. I was like, what is this? I don't know what I'm doing. It's horrible. But finally got got like, into it, figured out what I was doing. And then in March of 2020, I started my company. So I worked at that other job and ran my company until April of 22. So it was a while and way too much. Finally, I said, enough. I need to step out on my own. And so, yeah, I've been running my company since then. And I absolutely love it. Like, I never thought I would be in construction, never thought I would even be an entrepreneur, to be honest. Like, I didn't grow up wanting to do that, but I love it so much. And apparently I'm good at it. Like, I'm a psycho organized person, and I like, really, it's neat, it's clean, it's by the book in it, because I've seen things done differently, so I know how I want to run mine. So
Yeah.
it's been a weird journey, but it's been good.
Okay, I want to branch off from that for a second. So, what a lot of people, for our listeners, a lot of you do not know this, but my second job out of college, I worked at a real estate development company, and my job was to manage all of the project managers out in the field. And so what I had to do, oh my gosh, like this brings back so many memories. So
Mhm.
I had to know where each project was, like what the timeline was on the homes that were being constructed or the office buildings. I had to
Mhm.
know like when it was going to be finished, when the flooring was going to come in, what the PMs were doing on site. And they were so disorganized. All of these
Yeah.
men were so disorganized, but I was the one keeping it all together. So
Mhm.
I imagine that if you have extreme organizational skills as a
Mhm.
female leading in this industry, you're
Yeah.
probably crushing it compared to the men that they love construction, but they don't know the first thing about how to organize everything or how to communicate to their customers.
Mhm.
That was a thing too. I was the person that was communicating, and it was like these PMs, like they couldn't do that. They couldn't talk to the person.
Mhm.
Like they would be so confused. The customer would.
Yeah, one of my employees, he's like, "You're the best boss I never had, or I never had, because
Yeah.
he's like, you actually care about us in the field." And he's like, I've worked in this industry 15 plus years, and no one ever cared about the guys in the field. You do. Like, I send them birthday cards. I send
Mm,
them, I like send them cards for their anniversary. I am probably, yes, communicate in a totally different way than most men, right? And they really appreciate that. They love my style. And I'm like, hey guys, I make mistakes. Like, I if something happens and you think I could do it better, or you have feedback for me, or want to change something, like, please come to me. I'm always open. Like, I'm just doing this and going along figuring it out, but that's the beauty of it. I can change it tomorrow if I want. You know what I
mm,
mean? Like, I have the power to change anything that's not working. And so it's just, I don't micromanage them. I let them do their thing because they know way more about this than I do. But
yeah.
like, I'm here when they need me, I'm here. So
Mm.
it's just been really cool.
That's so valuable that you add that little personal touch as well, because you don't see a lot of male leaders do that. Like they struggle with
Mhm.
that personal connection.
Mhm.
And you being in that position of power and being open to feedback is so valuable for your
Mhm.
team. I want to ask, did did you ever question your confidence during this journey? Like did you ever feel like your confidence wasn't as high as it needed to be or it should be as your male counterparts that were leading in this industry in the beginning?
That's a great question. So I really naturally am just comfortable in my skin. I luckily I love myself. I feel comfortable in my skin. But there are times where maybe a week will be slower and I'm like, "Oh my god, people don't like us anymore." Like,
Mm,
"Oh, they all left." And I start questioning it, and then an hour later I have the week booked. You know
mm,
what I mean? I do get in my head sometimes, but ultimately I have to trust, like, I know what I'm doing. I'm working my butt off. I know what my technicians out there are doing. They're the ones that are, keeping the clients coming back. They're the ones, keeping that return business.
right.
So when I do start kind of questioning it, I just usually just take a step back and kind of focus on myself again and just reconnect and recenter and say, knock it off. Like, don't do
Yeah.
that.
Mm, I love that. Yeah, just like smash that internal dialogue that's going
Mhm.
on because
Mhm.
we all know that like we're our own biggest critic. And usually, like when we're thinking about something and we're like talking negatively about ourselves,
Mhm.
it's just us doing it, no
It
one else.
is. It is.
It's internal dialogue. You got to shut it off.
Yep.
So, I want to segue into your journey with not only have you started this business and you've been very successful, but you have two children,
Mhm.
and being a mom is a full-time job, and you also are running a company,
Mhm.
but you're dedicated to your personal health and fitness and just taking care of you.
Mhm.
How do you make time for that as a busy mom that's working, running this business?
I it's hard. It is hard, but there are ways. I mean, owning a company, like I could be working 100 hours a week. Like there's always my to-do list is never gone. It's
Mhm.
just it just keeps changing, right? And I read a book that said, and I've kind of taken this to heart because I don't want to work 60 hours a week and I don't. I work really hard the times I work and then I step away. But
Yeah.
it was about building a company. Like let's say you build a company and you just get all this massive success down the road, and when you're quote successful, you look around yourself, your health is failing, your family hates you, you're getting a divorce. Like what was that all for? If
Mm,
that is success, I don't want it. So it's building your it's looking at your life and what is important to you, what are your non-negotiables, what are your boundaries, what are your habits, and building that in for sure, and then filling business around it. And it's yes, it's hard. Like I said, we can always find something to do, but you really just have to do it. So for me, I get up, I go to bed really early. Like I by 9, I'm in bed and I love it. I'm a 85-year-old grandma, but I get up at 5:30 and I go right to the gym every day and I'm done by 7. That's when my phone starts blowing up with all the construction people. That's when they're oh, and sometimes earlier, but that definitely sets the tone for my day. I try to get outside, walk my dog, get in the sunlight and breathe the fresh air. And like sometimes I'm in my office just working away, and my brain is like mush. I can barely make a sentence. I'm like fried, and I
yeah.
force myself to go outside and look up at the sky and literally breathe deep and be like, chill out. This,
Mm,
you bring it down a level. Like you're in there thinking this is all like so important, and it is, but like bring it down a level. Remember to breathe, and like there's bigger things in life. So also I like to plan my meals each week just because I'm a planner. I do a little online grocery order each week. I spend way less because every time I walk in the store, whew, it's
yes.
bad. I'm like, yes, I need this ice cream. Yes, I need that. It's like I save so much money not going into the actual store. Plus, it annoys me. And because people are just wandering around aimlessly. I'm like, come on. But I plan the meals. So I hate like, oh, it's Tuesday night or something, and you're like 6 o'clock. What are we having for dinner? That just don't do that. That's not going to set you up for success. So it might take a little more planning, but it is looking at the habits that make you feel really, really good
Mm,
and building those into your day and making those non-negotiable. Also boundaries. Like I get so many bankers and insurance people. Hey, you want to have coffee and see how I can help you? No, I'm not changing banks. I'm not changing insurance. It's literally the bane of my existence for commercial insurance. Just like, no, I will drive my car off a cliff before I do that again. So it's like, that is a waste of my time. Is it building my business? No, it's not. Is it enhancing my life in any way? No, it's not. It's a literal waste of my time. So now I know when those people come at me, I appreciate it, but I don't have time right now. And I really don't. Like I'm filling my days with other things that move my business forward and align with my goals for my health and wellness. And if it's anything past that, I say no.
mm. I love that so much. And wouldn't you say that you kind of have to learn some of those lessons the hard way?
You
Like
do.
when you're starting out in business, I did the same thing. Like when we opened our first gym, the Chamber of Commerce, the
Mhm.
Women's Leadership Organization, every single organization or business networking group that was in town, they wanted me to come speak, set up a booth. They wanted me to donate to something that they had going on. And
Mhm.
at first, you want to be the yes girl. Like, you want to say yes, you want to get your name out there, you
Yeah.
want to be a people pleaser. But then you realize, like, okay, some of these things aren't adding value to my business or to my life. And in
Yeah.
order for me, like you said, to have those habits that help you show up as your best self, you have to really pick and choose which ones are going to add value and which
Mhm.
ones are going to be like a huge energy sucker. And so
Yeah.
you don't
Totally.
want that. You don't want that.
And you do learn the hard way. It's not like I've learned this through a few years of doing this where, I literally do everything in my company. Minus being in the field, I do everything and it's a lot. So it's, I have to protect my time and I was not good at it in the beginning and I'm getting better because
Yeah.
I know what my time is worth now and I know what kind of person I want to show up to be in the world and taking on those stupid meetings or all this other stuff like it's not serving me at all. It's just not getting me to where I need to be.
Yes, I love that. And for some of our listeners, the majority of our listeners are clients in the gym, and they may not be running a company, but they have demanding
Oh
jobs, they
yeah.
have children, and they're trying to protect their time as well. What would a piece of advice be to them, to anybody that's like really struggling to just have those healthy habits, like you
Mhm.
mentioned, like going to bed early, getting up, going to the gym, meal prepping,
Mhm.
ordering your groceries, planning it out? What would a tip be for them if they're really struggling with setting those boundaries?
Yeah. Yes. So first look at how you're feeling. What do you need? For example, I just recently quit drinking because I didn't drink a lot. I didn't drink a lot at all. I would have 2 or 3 drinks and I would literally the next day have a horrible headache until 9 p.m. till I went to bed. I'm like, I don't have time. Like this is and then I'm cranky. I'm like I don't have time for this. I'm, just not as productive as I should be really. And so I took a look at that and I was like I'm losing days. Like this is literally holding me back. So I think everybody on if you truly look at yourself, you can find one or two things that's holding you back that you need to remove immediately. If you're being honest with yourself, we all know what it is. We've been thinking about it for quite a while. And so I would look at that. I would like I said, set your priorities. Okay, you want to be healthier. Then when are you going to be at the gym? For me, it's never going to work at 5 p.m. It just isn't. I'm exhausted. By like 7, I'm like, oh my gosh, is it time to go to bed yet? Like, it's just not going to work at night. I have to do it first thing in the morning before my phone is ringing. Even at noon, I'm less likely because I pretty much guarantee some fire is going to come up and I have to go put that out. So, if you're working a corporate job or you're working any job, maybe it is your lunchtime is the only time to go to the gym. Plan ahead, pack your bag. It really is just about planning. If you just go into the day like, oh, I hope I work out today, it's not going to happen. It's just not.
Mm,
And again, getting those healthy foods in your fridge, like again, and like I had mentioned, planning meals. It's setting yourself up means you have healthy things on hand. You have help with your kids if you need, that kind of stuff. It is hard. It's hard. But with planning, you can figure it out.
yeah, I love that. Just picking one thing. Like, if we all have one thing we need to get rid of, or
And
we
we
have
know
one
it.
thing we need to start doing.
Yes.
And I want to touch on the alcohol a little bit. Like,
Mhm.
I don't drink a lot. I
Mhm.
very, very seldom drink. But same with you. Like, if I have a few drinks, the next day I feel terrible. I have a
Yeah.
headache. I'm regretting it. And I saw something recently that, I mean, it makes perfect sense. But it's like, the longer you go without drinking and you are a healthy person, you're working out, you're eating healthy, you're
Mhm.
sleeping, when you do take that drink, say you haven't drank in 3 months and you have 2 or 3 cocktails,
Mhm.
your body is literally like, "What is this poison that you're
It is
putting?"
poison. We are
And
poisoning
so
ourselves.
and
Yeah.
so the next day, it's completely normal that you feel like that. Where
Mhm.
on the flip side, if you are someone that drinks consistently, like you have a drink or 2 every single day,
Mhm.
your body does get used to it. And
Yeah.
while, no, you're not healthy, like you're not in optimal health,
Mhm.
it does kind of get used to it, and
Yeah.
so you're not gonna necessarily feel as bad as you would as if you hadn't drank in a long time. Like,
Mhm.
it makes perfect sense. And you'd think like, "Oh gosh, I am so healthy. Why can't I just have a cocktail every now and then?" But you're putting something toxic in your body. And
Mhm.
then you spend the whole next day trying to detoxify
Yeah.
yourself. So it really isn't worth it. It
Well, and
really is.
for me, I realized that drinking snowballs everything. So I'll have a couple drinks. I don't sleep well.
Yeah.
I'll skip the gym in the morning because I have a headache. Then I maybe go have another drink at lunch because, oh, it's hair of the dog. And then I want to eat a big fat cheeseburger. I mean, it's just it's a mess. It totally snowballs all of my other healthy habits. I'm like, what am
Yeah.
I doing? Yeah, it's hard. And I've been using the Reframe app, and it's really cool. It has a lot of articles every day on science of how drinking affects your brain, your body, like
Yeah.
your organs and things. And it's really interesting, the science behind how it changes your
Yeah.
body and takes it away from the natural state it's supposed to be in.
It's crazy. Yeah, I've seen, like, that alcohol is gonna be like cigarettes here soon. Like, no
Yeah,
one will be
it's
drinking as
crazy.
much as they used to, but
Yep.
but who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
Well, I wanna ask, so you've shared with me offline that you overcame significant
Mhm.
trauma in your life,
Mhm.
including sexual assault,
Mhm.
and I would love for you to share how you overcame that part of your life and, of course, share what you're comfortable with and how you
Yeah.
inspire other women to do the same.
Yeah, so if you're okay with that, I'll briefly share my story and kind of what came from that. So almost 20 years ago, during my Spanish degree, I studied abroad in South America in Ecuador, and at this point, I was alone. I was studying there alone. I had gone the year before, and met this school, or studied at this school and met some friends. So I returned the following year, and one night, I really one morning I woke up and I was on a dirty mattress on the floor of an abandoned house in Quito, Ecuador, like alone. And like glimpses, like very small glimpses of the night before were coming back, and my Spanish teacher had drugged me, taken me to this house and raped me. And I remember there was another man there too, and I remember throwing up. I was so sick, and then they left me there alone. And so I woke up alone in this house. I had no idea where I was at, and couldn't get out. Like, they have all these weird um like metal doors, and I kept getting electrocuted trying to open this door. So I finally get out. I really, again, had no idea where I was. I went back to the school because it was the next day and I had school. So I show up in the same clothes as the day before, and I had to see his face. And here's the problem though. Like, it was horrific, it was horrible, but I literally did not tell a soul. I told no one for almost 20 years. I just wrote my book and I'm sharing this, and I have had to have some tough conversations lately with people close to me that had no clue, because I just bottled this up so deep. I think it was just so traumatic. Like, I
Mm.
could have died. I mean, there are so many things being alone in a foreign country that could have like gone wrong. And so I just bottled that up, locked it, and threw away the key. And I
Wow.
and so recently, I was in another situation, in a lawsuit that went on for over 2 years. And it was just a really horrible, horrible thing. Just this person was coming after me, all these lies. And it hit me and like brought all that trauma up because I felt powerless again.
Mhm.
And yet another man was making me feel horrible, just traumatizing me. And
Yeah.
so, I've worked through that. But the difference is that I've learned is 20 years ago, through that sexual assault, like I said, I shoved it down. I told nobody. Why? Like, why didn't I tell anybody? I don't know. But with this recent, thing that I went through, I had some really, really low points, like bad low. This was the worst experience I've ever endured in my entire life. Soul sucking heavy, just absolutely horrible experience. I've never gone through that. And having my kids say, "Mommy, are we losing our house?" Having my kids teacher call me and say, yeah, are you guys okay? Your son blurted out that, mommy's being sued and it's really hard in my family right now. And the teacher was like, "Do you need us to adopt you for Christmas?" I'm like, "Oh my gosh, seriously?
Yeah.
No, I'm okay, but thank you." I mean, it was just horrible. But I this time around, I've grown as a person, I've grown as a woman, and I have done a lot of work on myself. So
Yeah.
this time I knew what I needed to do to make it through, because I'm like, I will not make it through this if I don't take care of myself. If I don't get to the gym, if I don't stop drinking or reduce it drastically, if I
Yeah.
don't eat healthy. A therapist, I was like, right, when it was bad, I was like seeing like 3 therapists. I'm like, bring it on. And so feeling powerless, I've felt that, and in other ways too, but those are 2 very large times in my life. But I am happy to say that now where I'm at in life, I know how to heal and work through it. And I'm still healing from the most recent thing, but I know that I have to take care of myself while I'm in it, because there are those things that we feel like we all go through tough times, right? But we feel that when we're in it, it feels like it's going to literally break us. Like,
Right.
how do I go on? Literally. And that is when we can move on, and we will, but we have to pull it together and be vulnerable and cry and get it out, and not say like,
Yeah.
I'm okay, because you're not, but like do things in life that make you feel okay so that you have the energy to get through it. And then you will be on the other side someday, and
Mm.
you'll be stronger for it.
I love that. Yeah. And it's like, it's okay to surrender and say, like, you're not okay, but
Mm-hmm.
know that you'll never be okay unless you start
Yeah.
making baby steps, as you mentioned, towards feeling better. And it
Yeah.
doesn't matter what that is. It could be going to the gym, it could be going to a therapist, it could be
Mm-hmm.
just telling someone, like in your situation, you kept it bottled in for so long.
Yeah.
And I do feel that I'm hearing more and more people today come out with stories, not necessarily the same as yours, but similar to your situation. And they too felt like they were so alone in what happened,
Mm-hmm.
and that they felt it was necessary just to keep it to themselves.
Yeah.
Why do you why do you think that is? Why do you think that more people today are coming out and being more
Mm-hmm.
vulnerable and using what they experience to help other people, which I'm so happy that you
Yeah.
and other people are doing that. But why do you think that is?
I think as women, we're kind of like taught by society to just put on a smile, act like everything's okay, and a lot of women are suffering in silence. A
Mhm.
lot are going through stuff that is just not okay. And I would hope that, like, a mission of mine is just to be real, authentic. I go on Instagram or Facebook and I'm like crying, like, "Oh my God, like, my kids
Yeah.
just did this and I can't handle this." Because I want people to, and it's funny how many messages I get from that. They're like, "Thank you for just being real."
Right.
Um, but we're seeing this ridiculous fake crap on Instagram. Like, for example, there is this lady, and I'm not trying to shame someone, but by what she's doing, she's making others feel bad. She's
Mhm.
like dressed all fancy. It's like she's in a photo shoot with her little baby. And then she's walking through all these crazy over the top things they're doing every day. And it's like I kept waiting for someone to jump out and be like, "Just kidding," because that's not real. But
Yeah.
she was serious. And I was like, this is what moms are watching. and they're feeling like that's normal, and it's not. We're all a hot mess. Like, get
Right.
real. If you know, and I never want people to think I'm perfect. I want people to understand, like, I I own my mistakes. I always want to be a better person, but yeah, I don't have my stuff together. Like, it's crazy. I try my best.
Yeah.
But I hope women are sharing that because they're feeling a sense of community, and they're feeling seen and heard, and feeling connected with other women, and feeling safe to share,
Yeah.
hopefully. But I think there are so many women and people that were assaulted many, many years ago, and just like me, bottled it up and
Yeah.
shoved it down. And it's sad. It's sad, but society makes us feel shameful, or, oh, it was our fault, or whatever. It's just not true. But
No.
it's like I said, it's having that conversation with my husband. He was like, hey, like a week later, he's like, hey, I've been off this week. I was driving home from work bawling my eyes out because I'm so sad and angry that happened to you, and I wasn't there to protect you. And he's like,
Mm.
I just feel I'm really off this week. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like, I don't want you to feel that way, even though it happened so long ago, but I need to tell him,
Right.
you know. But it's not an easy conversation to have with the people that love you. Oh, why didn't you tell us? I have no idea why I didn't tell you. I was
Right.
terrified. I was so traumatized. I just didn't. So I'm glad it's shifting, but I think there are still a lot of women and moms that maybe are struggling in any area of life, or they feel massively overwhelmed, and they're just keeping it in and not sharing it because they think all their friends have it together. They don't. If all your friends are like acting perfect, get new friends, because
Yeah.
no, we don't need, you should not be around that. You should be around women you could call and be like, oh my gosh, like, come over, I'm going to lose it.
Yeah.
That's what we need to be around, and surround ourselves with people that are like that and supportive, and will hug you and be like, I got this.
Yes, I really appreciate how you keep it real and raw and just like tell it how it is, because it is like it's exhausting when you see
Hmm.
someone that looks like they have it all together and you're like,
Yeah.
it's just a highlight reel. This is
Yeah.
just a highlight of the good part of their life. We
Hmm.
don't know what's going on behind the scenes. And like,
Yeah.
I'm sure you feel the same as me. I truly feel blessed by the mess. Like, I
Yeah.
feel that like even today, here's an example. My son, he goes to a school down the road. He's almost 3 years old and like I have a very flexible schedule. And so today, this was like the only thing I had today was the podcast, so I kept him home. And my
Yeah.
husband, he comes home from taking our daughter to school and he's like, "Why is he home?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, I wanted to keep him home today." And he's like, "You have a podcast. You have all these things you need to do." And I was like, "It's fine. He can tag along with me." And it's like sometimes I'm addicted to the chaos, like, I'm addicted to that.
Yeah.
I just love the crazy mess that my life is in right now, and, like,
Yeah.
wouldn't have it any other way, but
Yeah.
I'm not for a second gonna make you think I have it all together because I
Yeah.
don't, like,
Yeah.
I'm saying this today, and who knows what it's gonna look like after 5 p.m. tonight or tomorrow.
Yeah,
And
right?
so I so appreciate that, I so appreciate how
Thank
you do
you.
that, and I think, like, there's 2 major things happening in your life right now is, you're sharing that story of what happened to you 20 years ago, and you're
Mhm.
inspiring other women to come out and own what happened and
Mhm.
deal with it and help
Mhm.
other people in that situation, but then also, you're trailblazing the way in the construction industry in a male dominated field. And I want to ask you before we get off here. So you wrote a book, and I
Yes.
want you to tell our listeners a little bit about your book and how it can add value to their life.
Yes. So I just, yes, wrote my first book. I'm super excited. It is called Real Vibes Only: Unapologetic Confessions of a Hot Mess Mompreneur, which
Mm,
kind of encompasses it all. And it is just, it kind of just came pouring out of me, honestly. But I truly feel it is a representation of me and my soul. But it is a bunch of short stories, completely unrelated, about things that I've overcome in life or things that I've gone through. Some are pretty traumatic, some are kind of in the middle, some are lighter, but it's really just sharing that the things you've gone through, how you've learned, how you've grown. And like I said before, not letting those things break you, letting them propel you to what you're actually meant to be. And those tough times are horrible, but it makes you who you are. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today or, any of that without going through these things. So, yes, so it's a bunch of short stories just kind of with that. And so really I hope women feel seen, and maybe it's not the exact same story, but they're like, "Oh, I felt that." Maybe they laugh, maybe they cry, and they feel permission to be real, be
Mm,
vulnerable, and just let it out there. Like, for
yeah.
example, my there's I could talk for days and years on my 7-year-old. We call him the honey badger. He's just crazy. Like, he's this big spirited kid. And I tell stories, there's a lot of stories in there about him, but being a mom, I was in here, it was during COVID, I was working, and I get a picture from my neighbor, and it's his little naked butt walking down, the completely naked body, walking down the sidewalk from my neighbor. She's like, "You got a streaker." I'm like, "Oh my God." He got butt naked, climbed a 5-foot wooden fence at 3, or he might have been 2.5, and ran away. And then I'm in here like working my 2 jobs. And I'm like, my neighbor texts me this. I'm like, "Oh my God, he got out again." And, he's like running away naked. It's just like a freaking mess, and it's hysterical. And, like, I love just telling stories because I could go on forever about that kid. But
Oh, so great.
it's, if you can't laugh about it, it is a mess. It's a beautiful mess. We got to embrace it. Otherwise, you will literally never enjoy your life ever. If
No.
you're waiting for perfect, yep, well, good luck. It's not going to
Yeah.
happen.
You have to like seek joy, see joy, like experience
Yes.
joy in the crazy moments. And even like
Yes.
that, I'm just laughing thinking to myself that was one of my children because we're struggling so much right now with like how to discipline our kids. So
It's hard.
my youngest is almost 3, and then my daughter, she's 5.5. And like we nothing works right now. Like
No.
the timeout chair, like nobody's scared
Oh,
of us.
no.
My husband's like, "You're way too easy on them." And I'm like, "It's so hard because my 2-year-old, like, he still has that like baby look to him. Like he still has his
Hmm.
chubby little cheeks and his little legs. And so when he does something, I'm like, he's just so cute to me, you know? And I'm like, one day
Yeah.
he's not gonna be that cute. One day I'm not gonna see that anymore. So nope, sorry, not doing anything about it.
It's hard. It's so hard. And then what works for one kid definitely doesn't work for the other. My first was easy. He's just always kind of been easy. And then the second one, I'll be like, "Well, I'm going to take this away." He's like, "That sounds great. I'd love it if you'd take that away." And it's like he's playing
Oh,
mind games, and we're like,
yeah,
he's such a like stubborn child. I'm like, "Uh."
the attitude, like the
Yeah.
sass, they give
Yeah.
it back to you.
Yeah.
Oh, oh, that's so awesome. Well,
Yeah.
I hope that our listeners will check out your book, and we'll definitely link that in the show notes.
Thank you.
Um, but Chelsea, before we go, so on Beyond the Scale, like our main thing is to inspire people through health, fitness, wellness, taking care of
Hmm.
themselves, but not focus so much on the metrics, not focus so much on that
Hmm.
number on the scale because it's about the journey, not just that end goal. And
Hmm.
so we want people to make sure that they're living their life enjoying the journey.
Hmm.
And so I like to ask my guests, what does living a life beyond the scale mean to you?
That's a great question. I think it's focusing on joy. What lights you up? What do you love to do? Do you love to go dancing? Then go do it. Do you love to go ice skating? Do you love to just be outside in the sun? Do you love to meditate, read, whatever? As long as you're happy and doing things that like bring you joy, and you're playing, cuz as adults, we used to belly laugh all the time as kids, and we hardly ever do anymore. It's really sad. So, and all the play and fun has just been somehow removed from our life because we're busy and we got stuff to do. But I would say be joyful and play and be happy. And then that will flow over to the rest of your life. And I truly think if you're happy and living and focusing on things that you enjoy, everything else kind of falls into place. So you're in a really good spot and you're thriving. I think that's where the sweet spot is for sure.
Yes, seek joy. Yes. Well, Chelsea, thank you so much for joining us today. I know that our
Thank
listeners are going
you.
to get incredible value from this episode. Where can everyone find you?
You can check me out on my website, chelseahusum.com. It's CHELSEAHUSUM.com. And all my socials linked there as well. But I'm also on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And thank
Thank
you to our
you.
listeners for listening to another episode of the Beyond the Scale podcast. As always, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check us out on Apple Podcast and Spotify. Until next time, you guys, thanks so much.